All right, let's dive into a true television legend, a show that's been a fixture of pop culture for longer than a lot of us have been alive. Today, we are breaking down the anatomy of The Simpsons. I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? In a world where TV shows are lucky to get a couple of seasons, how in the world has this yellow family from Springfield not only survived, but completely defined television for decades? It's a real pop culture mystery we're going to try to solve. And just to get a sense of the sheer scale we're talking about, look at this number. Over 797 episodes. Let that sink in for a second. It's the longest-running American animated series, the longest-running sitcom, and the longest-running scripted primetime show. Period. But it didn't start out as this giant titan of TV. In fact, its origin is almost an accident. This whole thing wasn't some grand, perfectly calculated plan. Nope, it was born out of a moment of pure panic. That's right. So producer James L. Brooks asks cartoonist Matt Groening to pitch some animated shorts. Groening's plan was to use his popular Life in Hell comic strip. But as he's sitting in the lobby, he has this sudden realization. If he does that, he'll lose the rights to his life's work. So right there, on the spot, he frantically sketches out this idea of a dysfunctional family, naming them after his own family, and poof, the Simpsons were born. But here's the real game changer. When Fox decided to turn those shorts into a full series, James L. Brooks did something brilliant. He negotiated a super rare clause in the contract that basically told the network executives, you don't get to interfere. This one little detail gave the writers total freedom to be edgy, to be smart, and to create what Groening called an alternative to the mainstream trash on TV. That creative freedom, that was the seed for everything. And what came next is what fans and critics still talk about today, the Golden Age. So what was the magic formula? What made those first several years just so ridiculously good? Well, first, you have to look at the sheer talent density here. Just 6 main voice actors created an entire living, breathing universe. Just think about the range. Dan Castellaneta is Homer, but he's also Krusty the Clown and Grandpa. Harry Shearer is the evil Mr. Burns and the super religious Ned Flanders. This small group of people is the absolute beating heart of Springfield. Behind the scenes, though, there was another crucial figure. While Groening created the world and Brooks got them the freedom, it was a guy named Sam Simon who really built the machine. He put together that legendary first writing team and was totally essential in creating the show's unique comedic voice, that perfect blend of sharp satire and real, genuine heart. And this process shows just how much work went into it. A single episode took 6 months to make, and the most important step was that group rewriting session. You'd have a room of 16 brilliant writers just hammering away at every single line, packing each episode with joke after joke. That painstaking process is what gave the Golden Age that incredible comedic density. So with that formula perfected, the show didn't just get popular. No, it became an unstoppable cultural force. It absolutely exploded into a global phenomenon. In the early 90s, the entire world was caught up in what they called Bart mania. This rebellious 10-year-old kid became a global icon. The merchandise was insane. It pulled in $2 billion in just over a year. His t-shirts were so controversial that schools actually started banning them, which of course only made him even cooler. And the viewership numbers, they really tell the story. At its absolute height, one episode drew in a staggering 33.6 million viewers. Now, compare that to a recent season's average. Of course, television itself has totally changed since then, but those peak numbers show a level of cultural dominance that's almost impossible to imagine today. But when a show is this successful and lasts this long, a passionate debate is bound to follow. And for a lot of fans, the story of The Simpsons is really a tale of 2 different shows. The one they fell in love with, and the one that's on now. Die-hard fans often track the show's quality by looking at who was the showrunner, the head writer in charge of a season. The general consensus among fans is that the Golden Age happens somewhere in these first 3 eras, from about season 1 to maybe season 9 or 10. After that, well, that's when the arguments really start. So, let's be fair here. On one hand, by any official measure, the show is one of the most celebrated series ever. It's won basically every award you can win. Time magazine didn't just call it a great show, they named it the single best television series of the entire 20th century. But, on the other hand, you have the fans. And this quote from a fan really gets to the heart of the main criticism. that the show lost its way and just became a parody of itself, where characters would do crazy things just for a cheap laugh. A lot of the criticism is aimed at the era run by Mike Scully, where the humor got way more zany and, as some people said, it stopped feeling like a sitcom about a family and just became a cartoon. And in later years, the feeling from many was that the show was just on autopilot, kind of churning out episodes without that original spark. But wait, because the story doesn't just end there with a slow decline. Just when pretty much everyone had written the show off, a surprising new chapter started to unfold. Yeah, in just the last few years, a totally new conversation has started. Critics and even some old-school fans began to notice a change. Some started saying that the show was actually good again, that recent seasons felt like a real return to form, an idea most people thought was impossible. So what happened? Well, it seems like the show started taking risks again. They brought in guest writers like Seth Rogen to shake things up, they let experimental animators take over the famous couch gags, and they adapted to the times by recasting roles. Basically, the show started trying again. All of which brings us to today, and to the show's incredible, mind-boggling, and seemingly permanent legacy. What do you even take away from a run like this? I mean, its impact is just everywhere. Homer's classic dough is literally in the Oxford English Dictionary. Without The Simpsons, you probably don't have shows like South Park or Family Guy. And now that every single episode lives on Disney+, its place in culture is cemented forever. And it is not slowing down. Not at all. The show is already renewed all the way through its 40th anniversary. It is guaranteed to be making new episodes until at least 2029. That's just unheard of. So, as this show just keeps on going, defying all logic and expectations, the question isn't how has it lasted so long anymore. The real question, the one nobody has an answer to, is, will it ever actually stop? Can you even imagine a world without new episodes of The Simpsons?